The Consulting Success podcast is powered by the Clarity Coaching Program. If you'd like to work directly with the Consulting Success team and receive personal coaching and support to optimize and grow your consulting business, marketing, and revenue, visit consultingsuccess.com to find out more and apply.
Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky, and I'm here with Bruce Eckfeldt. Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Michael.
Yep, excited to be on. It's been a little while. I had the pleasure of being on your podcast a while back, and I'm just been looking forward to catching up with you. And so it's nice that we're going to have some listeners and viewers kind of following us along for this conversation. But to introduce you to everyone here, you are a business coach, you're a podcast host, you're a former Inc. 500 CEO. You've been writing in many well-known publications, which we'll talk about, but Inc.com, Forbes, so forth. And you're the founder and CEO of Eckfeldt and Associates, your management consulting firm where you also do coaching. And you've been running that, I believe, for about 7 years now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So if we go back, you have multiple kind of bachelor's degrees, I believe, in architecture.
Yeah, and things completely unrelated to what I'm doing today.
Yes. And that actually seems to be a bit of a pattern amongst many consultants that I have on the podcast here, is that oftentimes we all start off in very different places. But just take us back to what you were doing with architecture. Did you do much with architecture? I think actually you were an architect, right?
Yeah, so I say that sort of facetiously in terms of that I think actually a lot of what I do today is very much based on what I learned in architecture. So if you kind of abstract the discipline of architecture, it's really problem solving, right? Like in architecture, we're dealing with physical buildings and programs and people and environmental issues and structure and gravity and all this stuff. And we're trying to figure out how to create meaningful spaces, right? So that is the essence of architecture. And, I graduated and got in professional practice, and, I ended up kind of taking a different path. I got recruited. I was doing a lot of work in computer modeling and animation. So I got recruited into interactive media and more kind of the digital product and digital strategy world in the late 90s. But I was using all the kind of underlying thinking skills, problem solving, design thinking in terms of the work I was doing. I just shifted it from physical buildings to digital products. So I spent many years really on kind of product strategy and product design. And then I founded a tech company and focused on the actual software development side of things. We were a big lean agile shop. So I get very involved in software methodology and then organizational culture and how do companies use, sort of apply lean thinking in various ways, and kind of like got me to organizational change. And when I sold that, I got into consulting and advising companies on strategy and growth strategy. How are they going to grow and scale the business?
Yes, let's talk about that, because you've done a lot of work in kind of what it takes to scale and grow a company, right? That's what you're helping a lot of your clients with, is the strategy, and then on the scaling side of it. What do you see are kind of the most common challenges that are holding people back from achieving, truly meaningful growth and scale?
Yeah. So I like to say my job has kind of two pieces to it. The first piece is the business model and the analysis and really the strategic thinking. The other half is team therapist. And the reason is because there's challenges in both worlds, right? On the strategy side, you have to figure out some kind of differentiation, right? You can't really grow and scale a business successfully, quickly, profitably, without carving out some kind of niche in the market, some kind of set of attributes that you're going to be known for that allows you to charge a premium price. Like that's the only way you're going to really grow and scale the business strategically. On the other side, it's all about mindset and team dynamics, right? If the leaders of the company don't level up their thinking, think bigger, they're not going to be bigger, right? So a lot of what I end up doing is just getting into that headspace of, well, how are you thinking about the problem? How are you thinking of yourself as a leader? How are you envisioning yourself, your role, how you show up? And then how is that team operating? How is it interacting? How is it making decisions? What is the communication and the dynamics they have? Invariably, if we don't level up the leaders, we'll never level up the company. It won't happen.
So when you then start working with a client, what's the first thing that you would typically look at? Where's kind of the source of maybe the lowest hanging fruit? What's that starting place that really can tell you where to begin the path with them? Yeah.
So probably I get involved when a company either is starting to put together a leadership team or has a leadership team and they're really looking to level up its performance. So the first thing for me is, are we working in a team-based, or do we need to build out the team, right? And if we don't have a team yet, that's usually kind of step one. Because a CEO, a founder can't really move into a CEO slot or really can't lead a company and grow a company without a team around them. So step one is either helping that CEO understand or figure out what that team needs to look like, or working with the team they have to figure out, okay, where is it working, where is it not? What do we need to change either in terms of the people or the seats or how people are interacting? Because until we got that team in place, there's limited capacity, limited leadership capacity. Once we have that, then honestly, I call it the game of whack-a-mole, right? Where there is going to be some limiting constraint in the business, right? I'm a big theory of constraints, Eli Goldratt philosophy kind of, there is something in the business that is capping its current performance. The challenge is finding that cap, right? And you can have all sorts of problems in the business, but unless we find that limiting constraint, that limiting problem, we won't actually see performance increase in the business, unless we're focused on that thing. Now, that could be anywhere, right? So I'm a 3HAG and a scaling up coach, and so we use these kind of frameworks and questions, but we talk about people, strategy, execution, cash are the four main discipline areas. I bring in company culture, and I bring in planning as kind of two other things. So I'm looking at sort of 6 factors inside the company, and we're on a hunt for where is the limiting constraint. And this sometimes takes a little while to find, but if we can address that, we know we can elevate the performance of the company. The challenge is it moves, right? As soon as we fix one problem, that limiting constraint can jump, and it can go from people to cash, from past strategy execution, so execution to culture, right? It will move around a little bit, and we need to be aware of that.
For the consultant that is doing well, their business is growing, and maybe it's just them, or maybe it's them and a small team, but they really want to get kind of to that next level. They like the idea of scale and growth. What is something that you think they should really consider before they kind of commit to growing their business? And I'm asking that because these days everyone's throwing around the words, scale this, scale that, but not everyone's necessarily prepared from a mindset perspective or to actually put in the work to achieve successful scaling. So what should people know before they actually go down that path? What do they most often need to change that maybe they're not going to feel super comfortable doing initially?
Yeah. I usually start the conversations with folks that have ambitions or, are setting goals to kind of grow and scale their company, particularly when it's, maybe themselves, a couple associates or a couple things, and they're like, hey, I want to be a big company. So the 2 things that I have them kind of think about is, okay, imagining yourself at the next level. So $20 million, $30 million. What does that company look like? What are you going to be doing? And do you like that? Right? Because half the time, I've worked in a lot of situations where people scale the company and then the founder or the CEO is miserable, right? Because they haven't really envisioned, they haven't realized what changes they're going to need to make and what they're going to need to give up and what their world's going to look like operating a large company like that. Particularly if you're coming out of the 2 ones that I find most challenging is if you love sales, right? If that's what drives you, and unfortunately, that's going to be a big cap if you do not get out of the sales process and you don't create a system that is selling for the business, not you. If you love sales, that's going to be problematic. And 2 is if you have a particular kind of craft or you love the process of making, right? So particularly that comes up in like technology and design, architecture, stuff like that, where there's a love of the product, there's a love of the process. And the fact is as you grow a company, that the leadership roles are going to be much more around strategy and management, less about delivery. If you're going to be unhappy not doing the work, then growing the company may not be the best option. Now, you can grow the company and just not hold that CEO seat or hold the leader seat, right? You can have a senior level role inside your own company. And I've seen that work out several times. I will say it takes a very confident, very humble person to grow their company and not be the leader, right? It's actually willing to say, look, I want to be a $20 million company, but I'm willing to be head of sales, or I'm willing to be, chief technology officer and let someone else lead.
You talked about bringing in different frameworks and systems when you're working with clients. How important is it for the professional services firm, the consulting firm owner, to ensure that they have their own kind of systems and frameworks inside of their business, especially when it comes to growth?
Yeah, so I'm sure there are ways to grow businesses without clear systems and frameworks. I just don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Right? Like the only way that I know how to repeatedly, consistently, and sort of confidently build a business is through some kind of framework, some kind of system, some kind of process. And though there are lots of them, and we can talk about all the different kind of systems that are out there. And honestly, they all have pros and cons, and we can make arguments for different situations and different ones. I'm less concerned about picking the absolute perfect one and more concerned about picking one and sticking with it and getting really good at it and leveraging for everything it does. And you may need to evolve it. You may need to switch systems at some point, but pick a system, run it, and run it well and get really good at it. That's going to be your best bet.
Got it. Now, you also do a lot of work with OKRs, objective key results. And for those people who aren't even familiar with OKRs are, maybe to start off and just kind of break that down a little bit. But then I'd love for you to explain why they're so important and how you and your clients are using them. While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Mm-hmm. So just like systems, like there's all sorts of ways of setting goals. My main thing is have a goal. You can set it lots of different ways, and you do SMART goals and you do SMT goals and all this kind of stuff. Again, there are pros and cons of all of them. The reason I like OKR as objective key results is they do a particularly good job of connecting strategy to your execution, right? So your objectives, which are directional areas of focus, help you align your activities towards strategic objectives, right? Your objective needs to clearly put you on a path towards your 3HAG or your BHAG or whatever highest level goal you've set. That is what your objective does. Your KRs are your milestones against that path, right? So your KRs are the measurable, doable things that you can accomplish in a particular period of time. So we set quarterly. I usually work on a quarterly basis. So we're setting quarterly OKRs, which basically aligns the team to strategy, but that gives them very measurable, doable things that we can look and feel and confirm that are being done or not done over the quarter.
Hey, it's Michael here, and we'll be right back to the podcast. But first, are you ready to grow, scale, and take your consulting business and marketing to the next level? If so, our Clarity Coaching program may be a great fit for you. You'll work with our experienced team to set up a strategic plan for your business and coach you step by step in areas like how to consistently attract more leads, develop a magnetic message that resonates with your ideal clients, strategically package and position your services, earn higher fees, win more proposals, and scale your business. To find out more about Clarity Coaching and apply, go to consultingsuccess.com and click on coaching.
When someone says, okay, that makes sense, and maybe I read or I heard I should be doing something, but I don't know if it's going to work, what do you tell them? What do they actually need to be doing to move things forward, even if they're not certain that they're going to get a specific result from doing it? There's some doubt in their mind because they haven't done it before. Maybe they know or they believe they should be doing it, but they're not taking action because they don't actually know what's going to happen.
Well, look, I mean, at some level, no one knows anything. There's no guarantees, right? So I guess if the person is looking for, well, I'm not 100% confident that this is going to work. It's like, oh, I'm not 100% confident it's going to work either, but I'm a lot more confident that it's going to work if we do this process than if we just wake up every morning and decide what we want to work on and just work whatever whim comes across our plate. So I think if you're stuck in the kind of thinking trap of I'm not 100% convinced, that's going to be problematic. I work with teams. I do a whole exercise with teams on confidence intervals. And we talk about this 80% sweet spot where most business decisions, the vast majority of business decisions, need to be made in perfect situations, right? With limited knowledge and limited information. If we can get to an 80% confidence level, 4 out of 5 times we're pretty sure it's going to work. That's great. Like once you get to 80%, you go. Like stop thinking, stop doing anything else, make the decision, move forward. Because that last 20%, it's going to be impossible to close the gap completely. And it's huge diminishing returns. Like trying to get another couple of percent on that confidence level takes a huge amount of time and energy. And that ultimately is going to get in your way of success.
Yeah, completely agree. My clients always hear me say imperfect action, imperfect action, imperfect action, because It's just about taking action, right? And you don't know, but in taking the action is how you do know, right? That's how you get the feedback. And then you get clear on whether what you thought actually works or it doesn't work. And you can go out and take more action. But if you're not taking any action, you're not going to get any result at all. So so Bruce, you coach organizations, right? You got your firm, you host 2 different podcasts, you write for multiple publications. Some people look at that and you go, well, that's a lot of different stuff. How do you manage all that? Just kind of take us through what's your approach to getting all these things done? How do you kind of break down your day, and are there any kind of tools or strategies or just systems that you use to get a lot done?
Yeah. How much time do we have? I'll do some strategy and then I'll talk about some of the tactics. So strategically, what I realize is that the thing I am exceptionally good at is having conversations and developing insights around those conversations that give kind of little epiphanies. Like I'm really good at reframing things instead of the frame. So what I focus on is creating as many of those as possible and then putting those into content that can circulate out into the world as much as possible. Because I know that if I can take that insight, get it out into the world, someone can connect with it, they will contact me saying, hey, you know what? This is in my head and you clearly know what's going on in my head. I need to have a conversation with you about this.
And are you doing that through your podcast as an example, or is there other, just so I would love to get a tangible example from you of like what you do and how you kind of do it?
So the 2 processes I have in place. So one is the podcast. So I will, by getting the right guests on, having the right conversations, we create great content from there. The other thing I do is I keep a little journal. And when I'm meeting with clients or prospects or anyone and something comes up, like we just had something, like a challenge they're having, something they mention, it can even be slight. Like I will just write it down saying, like if I can create a little piece of content around this issue and I'll write it into an Inc. article or something. And the way I've set it up now is I do very rough first drafts and I've got an editor who then cleans it up. I've got an EA who gets it onto the Inc. platform and does all the things that they need to do. I have basically got it down to just the meat, right? Just the thing that I need to do. And I've gotten myself out of all the other processes. So people look at the amount of content and podcasts, all stuff I do. Quite honestly, like I set up a day of podcasting and I just interview. And now I've got a tool that audio recording is automatically saved in the cloud. My EA goes in, pulls them all down, creates the pages, does the audio editing, makes the podcast. Like I never see it again. So for me, it's been about like, what's my unique skill or what's my unique capability? And how do I just do that and find systems and people? It's taken a while, right? Like I've had to write lots of SOPs. I have to go through a couple of people. I have to train them. It takes some time. But once you get that engine running, it just creates value.
And out of everything that you're doing right now in terms of the podcast or articles in different publications or maybe something else, what's working best right now for you to generate qualified leads and get new clients for your business?
Yeah. So the things that have worked particularly well for me, I'd say over the last year. So the podcasts have been good in the sense that, so twofold. One is it creates content that gets a lot of traffic, meaning that it's good, insightful, valuable content and people want to listen and read. And so that's worked well. And 2, it ends up being a great calling card, right? So I can use that to knock on the doors of people that, I potentially want to do business with, or referrals, people that are going to know people. And the way we end up doing it we do a lot of work on LinkedIn. And once we do an interview with someone on LinkedIn, we then use the kind of concentric circles of connections that they have to engage those circles to expand my circle. So, I probably went from like 10,000 to 25,000 first degree contacts on LinkedIn over the last 2 years. And they're all really good quality leads. They're really good quality connections because they're either common friends of guests or they're friends of guests, so it's a great way to kind of expand the network.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. What's one thing that you've done maybe over the last 12 months, you've kind of implemented into your business that's really helped you to get greater results for your clients?
For clients, I've kind of doubled down on some strategy framework tools. And what I've realized, this may come across awkward for some clients even, I have learned that the less I say, the more value gets created. Right? So I used to do, in the sessions that I would run, I would be super active. Like I'd be talking a lot, I'd be moving stickies around, I'd be doing a lot of the work, and I'd be like really like running the show. And now if you come to one of my sessions, I basically ask a question and I sit down and I just let them talk, right? And I'll make some comments and I'll kind of guide things, but I realize that the real value I create is helping them have the conversation they need to have, not telling them what to do, right? And I think that when I started, I was much more like, I'm here to tell you what to do. And now I'm here, I was like, look, you guys know what to do. You just don't know it yet. And I'm here to help you figure that out. So like I said, it could come across funny for some clients, but yeah, the less I do, the more value it's created.
I was going to ask you a question, Bruce, about, in the last 12 months, what's something that you've done that's also helped you to generate significantly more revenue and business, which I think I still want to ask you. But before we get to that, I don't want to gloss over. You kind of talked about how you've grown your LinkedIn connections, and these are really qualified people. Just break that down for everyone. I really want to make it tangible. Specifically, what are you doing? Like, what's the process that's allow you to see a lot more momentum and traction on a platform like LinkedIn?
Yeah. So the two keys that we figured out, or that I've realized having worked on LinkedIn for a while, one is creating just good content, really good quality content, right? And this is not like, you can do that, like the 5 tips to do X, the 5, like those are fine, but like an interview, a 30-minute interview with somebody, like that really gets into their business and what they do. It's a high quality.
Is that an interview that you do on a different platform, like how we're recording right now, and then you'll upload that interview directly to LinkedIn?
So we will transcribe it, we'll tag it, we'll put pieces of it on LinkedIn as saying, hey, we just launched this podcast episode with so-and-so. So that goes on LinkedIn. We then, obviously tag the guest. Then what I do is I go through all of our common connections. So the one thing is create good content. The second thing is use LinkedIn's messaging tools, right? So once I get a podcast episode up there, we then take all of our common connections, people that we're both first degrees with, we message them saying, hey, we just did this interview. It's been posted on LinkedIn. We do that quickly because if you can hit the first hour or so of LinkedIn, if you get a lot of activity, it will push it. So someone's now getting a request saying, oh, this friend of mine who I know and Bruce, who I also know, just did this episode. Great. I'll go and like and share.
So just to confirm, I want to confirm, Bruce. So you're going in and the guest is going in and you're kind of coordinating at the same time. You've asked the guest, hey, or you're not doing that. No, so you're doing that you're doing your platform.
I just do it on my side.
And so are you kind of picking specific people to send this message to? Or are you kind of getting the LinkedIn, maybe, 50 people at one time, sending out a bit of like a blast email? How are you messaging this to a whole bunch of people to check out one-to-one?
Yeah, so I just look, because I'm usually connected to the guest by that point. So we're both first degree. So LinkedIn will show you all of your common connections. So I go through each one of those common connections and I've got little scripts and things that automatically send the message with a link to the post on LinkedIn. And I'm basically saying, hey, we just posted this and we'd love a like or a share. Right. So what happens, all those first degrees click on it and say, hey, that looks great. I both know these people. I'll give it a like. I'll give it a share. The more activity you can generate on that in the first hour, and then like exactly what the algorithm is, no one knows, but it seems like the first hour of activity has some indicator that will then push it out to both of our networks much more. So it actually extends the reach of that. I actually then I look through the second degrees of the guest and I find people that I think are going to be good connections for me. And I reach out to them, hey, we just did an episode with so-and-so. Would love you to check it out, give us some feedback. And a lot of those folks will come in first degree on my side.
And are you doing that yourself? Is your EA doing that? Are you using some tools?
Yeah, I'm not doing any of that. So yeah, I've got an SOP, we've got a checklist, and it's all part of the podcast episode system, right? Like we produce the podcast, it gets distributed out through the podcast networks. Then when we post it on LinkedIn, it goes to the connections. We do first degree, we do second degree. So it goes through, it's a series of stages. But yes, I've got 2 different EAs, VAs that handle that for me.
All right. So second to last question, last 12 months, something that you've done differently, something new that you've implemented into your business that has created more revenue for you, that just has worked out very well. Anything new?
I'm always increasing my prices. I would say that's the easiest, simplest way to increase revenue.
How do you do that? How do you do that? With new clients, you just increase your prices, but do you ever do that with existing clients?
So I did this a couple of years ago. This is a coach friend sort of taught me to do this. My contracts have automatic renewals at 8.5% increase in price. Right? And if I get up, probably half the clients never even look at it or never even question it. The ones that question it, my answer is, look, if we're doing our job, right? If you're a $20 million company and we take you to a $30 million company and we go from 10% profit to 15% profit, we're going to drop several $1 million into your bottom line. Like if we're not able to cover a 8.5% increase on my rates in that year, then you shouldn't retain me. Like we shouldn't be doing business together. Right. So it kind of just goes back to what are our goals and what are we trying to do? We're trying to grow the business, grow the profit so we can put money in the bottom line. If I'm doing that, like I should be doubling my rates every year and they should be like, thank you. So increasing rates is probably the number one thing.
Low-hanging fruit, right?
And so many people leave it on the table.
100%, completely agree. All right, so last question here, and a very important one, Bruce. How can people learn more about you? Where should they go to check out your work, your writing, your podcasts?
Yeah. So home base is eckfeldt.com, ECKFELDT.com. That's my home website that has links to everything. Scaling Up Services and Thinking Outside the Bud are the two podcasts. Those are fun and easy. And you just search for me on Inc. and I will come up and my articles come up. I probably have about 130, maybe 150 now articles on Inc. So a lot of content there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bruce, so much for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.